Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you are new around here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "My ex-girlfriend is at work, can I barricade the doors shut and refuse her entry to my house?" The details are as follows. This is my house, I pay 100% of the mortgage, her name is not on a single document to prove she lives here, not a single utility bill is in her name, and all forms of her identification still relate to her parents' house. She has resided here for 6 weeks and we've been broken up for almost 2 weeks. She is point blank refusing to leave my house and even refusing to sleep anywhere other than my bed. I don't know the reason for this bizarre behavior, but I want to put an end to it today. I just want to know if I can legally barricade the door shut to stop her entering, and in the meantime I will collect her possessions and deliver them back home to her parents. She is currently at work and she will be home in around 8 hours. And a user in the comment said, "If it is definitely 100% your house and there was no form of arrangement for her to pay rent or anything, just change the locks. Pop to B&Q or Wilco or similar, all you need is a screwdriver and it should not take more than 10 minutes even if you have zero existing knowledge of the process." And another person said, "If the OP cannot make it out to a shop in time and the ex only has a front door key, it might be enough to just swap the back and front door locks. Not sure they would be in a state of mind to go around the back and try unlocking the back door with the front door key if they think the locks have been changed." And by the way guys, I'm wondering, have you ever locked yourself out? Honestly, I got sort of a tick that I probably check around 10 times or so before I leave the house that I have all my keys and everything. So usually locking myself out does not really happen for me. Update to the barricade story. So everything went down as planned. I packed her stuff up and dropped it off at her parents' house, who were never actually told that we were broken up, so this came as a big surprise to them. Came home and pushed a piece of furniture in between the front door and the staircase before sending her a message properly explaining what I am doing. As I expected, she showed up to my house as normal and attempted to force entry for a while before disappearing for around 10 minutes and then returning to bang on my door. She made a series of loud dramatic phone calls to who I assume were her friends. She also took a picture of the outside of my house where I am visible through the window to make a Facebook post about how I have locked her out. This has fortunately since been removed. After around 45 minutes of hearing her have loud dramatic conversations on the phone, she disappeared and blocked me on Facebook without saying anything. I'm keeping the barricade in place until I get the locks changed. As far as I am aware, there have been no phone calls to the police this evening and I don't know the whereabouts of my girlfriend. And by the way guys, I'm curious, have you ever heard about locksmith scams? Honestly, around a week or so ago, I saw an old YouTube video about locksmith scams in Canada, and to be honest, I was quite shocked at how some locksmith businesses scam people. Essentially, they will tell you to get in and change the lock might cost between $50 and $500, and then they will tell you that essentially the lock is really hard to get into, so that's why it will cost more. And yes, to be honest, that was a first for me. I did not think those people would scam you. And the next one is titled, "My nurse intentionally gave me a different dose of a medication than she communicated to me." Hey everyone, I am from the Bay Area, California. For some background info, I have a terminal illness that lands me in the hospital several times a year for about a week at a time. I have these hospital stays down to a science at this point. During these stays, I am usually put on 2 to 3 IV antibiotics and in need of some stronger and opiates due to the pain that this illness comes with. Now the story. Today I asked my night nurse if I could get my opiates and anti-nausea medicine as I was in pain and feeling nauseous. My nurse mentioned that she was not allowed to give me my pain med for another 45 minutes. This was not a huge issue, so instead I asked her, "Well, can I still get the anti-nausea medication because I'm feeling very nauseous?" Which she responded that she would just give them both to me in 45 minutes when the opiate were also due as well. This upset me a bit, and I mentioned to her that if the order was ready, I would like it sooner than that, as throwing up is not a fun thing to do. She said, "Okay." Bluntly, I went back to my room. This convo was in the hallway outside my room, and she waited the entire 45 minutes anyways. As rude as this was, I know this is not illegal at all. 45 minutes later, she comes in and asks me my pain level on a 10-point scale, and I tell her a 7, the same number I have told her over and over for several days now, and she gets my 3 milligrams of opiates ready. She gives me pain meds and nausea meds and leaves without us speaking another word to each other. I am still in more pain than usual as I'm on a pretty high dose of opiates. I chalk it up to me building a slight tolerance and deal with it. My new nurse comes in and tells me I am almost due for my pain med, and she asks if I want another 1 milligram or the regular 3 milligram dose. I am confused at this point, and I told her I have only been getting 3 milligram doses since I came into the hospital 5 days ago. When did I get 1 milligram? My new nurse mentioned my last dose was only 1 milligram and that my pain tolerance was written down as a 5 instead of the 7 that I reported to the original nurse. Essentially, my nurse decided to be petty and intentionally record a lower pain rating and gave me a lesser dose of Dilaudid, which by the way I assume is some sort of medication, just because she was upset with me, and I'm still not even sure why. What can I do here? I find it completely unacceptable that she intentionally record a lower pain rating and then obviously give me less than I'm supposed to be receiving, causing me a lot of discomfort. This hospital is also not allowed to give me the 2 milligram difference, so I have to wait 4 hours just to get my normal dose. Is there anything I can do? I don't care about compensation or more opiates. I really just want someone in this type of position to be fired or at least written up, as I find it completely unacceptable to mess around with a patient's medication like this. Thanks in advance, and hopefully there's something that can be done. Edit/update. There seems to be a lot of open questions and speculation. Will try to answer to the best of my ability. Someone asked how long I had been terminal. I've been terminally ill since birth and have already lived well past the average life expectancy of someone with my illness. Someone also mentioned I should just treat my nurses better and suck it up. I actually am in the hospital so often that a majority of the staff know me, some even send me Christmas cards. I feel I treat them all pretty well. I even usually order extra pizza to share with the staff when ordering delivery, and always try to make conversation with my RTs since they have to hang out for a while. There is also speculation of the other 2 milligrams possibly being stolen. No drugs were stolen at all. She gave me 1 milligram and reported 1 milligram being given in the computer system. She just communicated differently to me directly. Those who are saying 3 milligrams of Dilaudid is an absurd amount, you have no idea how large I may be, how often I receive this medication, or how much pain I am dealing with. Therefore, I'm not sure how you can make these assessments over Reddit. I filed a complaint with the hospital administration yesterday about what happened, and they guaranteed that actions would be taken and that a discussion had already been had with the nurse. They could not legally tell me what actions would be taken. However, they also told me I could file this complaint with the California Board of Nursing, which I'm not planning on doing. I mentioned to the hospital administration that I'm not trying to get anyone fired, that this person may just be having an off day, as we all have days like that, which the admin then interrupted me and said, "Regardless of her day, that does not give her the right to tamper with a patient's medication or medical records," which makes me feel like the hospital is taking this matter very serious. It sounds like this nurse will be getting written up or a legitimate verbal warning, and life will continue for everyone, which is really the end result I wanted. Thanks everyone for your advice and feedback. Hopefully because of this she will take administering medications to patients a bit more seriously moving forward. And indeed, a person in the comments recommended file a complaint with the hospital administration, and another person said, for what it's worth for OP's information, this would be referred to as a grievance. Complaints and grievances can be handled/referred to differently at hospitals. And indeed guys, I probably would not say that this nurse should be fired, because that is pretty harsh, and I know how difficult of a job being a nurse can be, but still, tampering with a patient's medication is an absolute no-go, and she should definitely get reprimanded for that. Let me know what you think about this situation in the comments, and by the way, if you haven't already, I would be super happy if you could post some star emojis in the comments to show your loyal support. Thank you so much in advance, and now let's move on to the next story. And the next one is titled Landlord Suing Me Over Doors I Broke Down While Our 5-Story Apartment Building Was on Fire. On December 28th, a fire erupted on the 2nd floor of our apartment building, which we learned came from a meth lab. I live on the 4th floor, and tenants who had the meth lab was directly below the person below me, while we faced the opposite direction of the street. I noticed the fire engulfing the apartment through a reflection and started banging on people's doors to tell them to get out. The area that I was living in was not the best place, and crime occurs frequently, so many people like staying indoors and don't like opening doors. What I learned after the fact was that the fire alarm that the building had was not currently operational, supposedly, so no alarms would go off when I pulled the fire alarm. I ended up kicking down about 4 doors that people refused to open and told them to get out due to the fire, and we all ended up going down the fire escape and no injuries occurred through this ordeal. The fire department came and put out the fire, which did not end up reaching the 4th floor, so it was safe minus any structural damage that occurred. I told the fire department that I broke down the doors, and the landlord/owner came out of nowhere and told me I would have to pay for those doors or get sued for the total cost. I realized there are many factors, but could I actually be forced to pay this? And guys, in regards to the fire alarm currently not being operational, a user in the comments said, "The fire marshal will love to know about this then. The building may be condemned if the landlord does not correct this in short order." However, you did not have the authority to break into the other people's units to inform them of the fire or to command them to leave. It is probably good on the balance that you did, but you likely are liable to the portion of the damage that you caused. You could negotiate, you could pay up if your landlord will put the settlement in writing, you could wait and see if he sues. I cannot think of any obvious right choice, but further discussion is probably futile either way. And guys, I'm curious, what do you think? Did OP do the right choice here, or should he not have kicked down those doors? In my opinion, he is sort of a hero because he might have saved someone's life. Update: Landlord suing me over doors I broke down while our 5-story apartment building was on fire. The brother of one of my co-workers is a lawyer, so I met with him, who chose to advise me for free, and I chose to remain silent on the original thread until everything gets settled. Little more anticlimactic than I thought would happen. Went to meet with the fire marshal, and he was already up to speed with the chain of events and the fact that the fire alarms were not working and the fact that there was an actual meth lab on the 2nd floor. He informed me he was going to levy a number of fines on the landlord with addition to other things I was not aware of. The tenants who had the meth lab in their apartment were arrested, along with having their child taken away from them. Their next door neighbors were the actual minds behind the lab and were also arrested. Regarding the landlord saying he was going to sue me, he was just blowing smoke and was full of crap, and in lieu of lawsuits from other tenants, he released everyone that asked from their lease and paid an undisclosed amount of money to quite a few. Where did he get this money? Apparently his father is some multi-millionaire, but even that couldn't allow him to afford a working fire alarm system within the building. That is all the info I have for now, thanks y'all. Guys, imagine having a fire alarm in your building, getting saved, and then getting arrested by police and getting your child taken away. That is quite the turn. And the next one is titled, Help, former landlord demanding for rent that I already paid. He sent me to collection agency and ruined my credit. In March of 2011, I signed a lease to rent a 1-bedroom apartment from Eastlake Management Group Incorporated. I paid $700 for the first month rent and a security deposit of $700 as well. I also paid a gate remote fee of $70 so that I could pack my 2 cars within the apartment premises. In all, I paid $1,470 to move into the apartment. I was told that the security deposit and gate fee would be refunded whenever I was ready to move out. I lived in the apartment from March 2011 till March 2013. On February of 2013, I called the landlord and informed him I would be moving out of the apartment the next month. The next month, my family went to the apartment to move my things as I had resumed duty at my new job in another state. Afterwards, they delivered the keys to the landlord. I believe he inspected the apartment and certified that everything was in the right order. Fast forward to January the next year, I saw an alert on my credit monitor regarding a potentially negative information which had just been entered in my credit report. I waited till the 17th to get full details of this said information. That was when I found out that the landlord had sent my information to a collection agency, IC Systems, who had in turn reported me to the 3 credit bureaus. Instantly, my credit score took a big hit. I went from the 700s to 655 in one instance. After I determined the cause, I placed a call to my former landlord to ascertain what was going on. He told me he gave my information to his attorneys because I did not pay the rent for the last month, March 2013, before I moved out. I told him it was my belief that my security deposit was applied to that month, to which he responded that he has no record of me paying any security deposit. To cut the long story short, he said if I could send copies of the receipts, security deposit and gate fee to him, that he would give it to his attorneys. I was able to find the 2 receipts, properly stored away. I intend to send copies of the receipts to him tomorrow. I just want to know if this is the right move. Can they take the negative information out of my credit report? And if they cannot even after seeing the receipts, what recourse do I have? Can I litigate on the ground of emotional trauma? Thank you all for taking your time to read about my situation. And a user responded, a security deposit is not the same thing as rent. It is in case you cause damage to the apartment and the landlord has to repair it. If you lived there during the month of March and you didn't pay rent, you really are on the hook for the credit hit. The landlord not having a record of your security deposit is another issue. However, you probably are not entitled to receive it back unless you are all paid up with your rent. If you are on friendly terms, you might be able to settle the debt and have the landlord remove the item from the credit report or give you a letter to send the bureau saying the debt has been taken care of. And by the way guys, one thing I would like to mention, currently it is pretty difficult for me to find new interesting legal advice stories. Once, because we have read so many already, but also second, because the website I was using to find these older, more interesting posts is currently down. If you know any good websites for legal advice and potentially even finding updates to them, I would be extremely grateful if you could share them in the comments. Legal advice is one of my favorite topics nowadays, but as I said, it's not so easy anymore to find new stories. Update to the former landlord demanding for rent that I already paid. After I sent a letter with copies of the original receipts to the landlord, he called me back to ask if I could call the company from which he acquired the property. This was obviously ridiculous and I let him know that we had a bit of an argument. He maintained that he was not going to call the company, old management, to which I responded, I will see you in court. Over the weekend I buried myself in the studies of all the Illinois laws relating to security deposit and tenant/landlord relationship. I found out that I had so much to gain. I was so excited, I prepared all the necessary letters to be sent out to the CA on Monday. 2:48 p.m. on Monday, just as I was getting ready to go and send some mails out, I got a call from him, the former landlord. He basically called to say he made a mistake and has instructed the CA to correct the negative information that was reported on my credit report, and I have no debt obligation to him. The story ends here, but how I wish he had not called me. I was really hoping for a major payday. And to be honest guys, I can sort of understand what the OP means here, but in my opinion, he should just be happy that it did not really escalate and now he has less headaches. Sometimes it is good and especially satisfying to go for confrontation, but if matters solve themselves as easily as this, then it is even better if you ask me. And the last one is a special story from our own subreddit, aka Not Really Legal Advice, and it was posted by user Mama-san and is titled Inheritance Fun? My godmother inherited quite a bit from her sisters and her late husband. To get a vague idea of how much she had, if her checking account showed below $2,000, back in the 70s, she thought she was running out of money. She was born in 1904 in the Wild West and at age 4 was stolen by the local Indians. The sheriff gathered a pose, pronounced Posse, and got her back after a couple hours. The only thing that happened was getting dirty from her long golden hair being petted. She married in 1920 to a French-Canadian trapper who the family did not like because they thought he was an uncouth mountain man. He gave her everything her diva heart could want, but no children. She did not like spending money on anyone but herself. When we visited, she adored that I just wanted to be with her, and she playfully started teaching me to do chores. Dad thought it was cute how I followed her about like I was her minion. Was she training her own flying monkey? However, Mom was upset that I would do anything my godmother wanted, but would argue with her about even picking up after myself. Due to the sisters living a few states away from the rest of the family, no one went to visit them. Thankfully, my dad got stationed in the same state a few times. We visited them a lot, so much that the sisters worried about us showing up while they were gone to the doctors. Solution: lift small diva to top of 6 feet solid wood fence and drop her. Diva then goes through patio dog door that is never locked, get near licked to death by assorted doggies, escapes most of doggies to crawl through kitchen dog door, try to avoid being play tagged by hyper dogs, run to front door and unlock for family, drive off doggies so none escape. My godmother made that house magic for me, a cookie jar full of cheap cookies, 2 half-gallons of cheap ice cream in freezer, and plenty of fun favors/chores to do for her. About the time Dad got a new posting, her health declined. Dad stepped up and set up everything, so she got all the help she needed and stayed in her house. This went great for a while until she had a minor heart attack, fortunately during a doctor visit. When she was admitted, the company handling her home care discovered that the couple taking care of her and her home were stealing from her. The details were never shared in the family, but it was decided that she could no longer live alone. We tried having her live with us. Looking back, I may have completed the flying monkey apprenticeship. Even with me fawning over her and doing anything she wanted, she told us that she wanted to be around people her age. Dad had cousins close to her age, a sister, brother and brother's wife. So she was flown to a far northern state to live with them. I admit, I sulked for weeks that I could not be with her. She decided to finally make a will. Some family members got upset because they thought since she had no children, it should be divided among the family by generation. Her nephews and nieces getting the bulk. Also, some complained that as a teen I could not be allowed to get any just because I was her only godchild. I kept overhearing the telephone calls, before home computers, arguing with my parents. In a bit of a fit, I wrote a handwritten letter with 2-inch high letters to my godmother. Dear Aunt Lottie, as you make your will for when you are gone, I don't want any money. I would like to take care of any dog you have and maybe any sentimental item from you. Love you, Diva. The will was made and split 2 ways, half to Dad and half to his cousins. No mention of me was in it. When she passed, my dad went to a lawyer and signed everything over to his cousins. He said it was because they never touched her money and were living on a shoestring budget from their retirement. Dad dared the family to try to challenge what had been done and reminded them that he would destroy their reputation as devout Christians. Now, don't worry, dear friends, I did get something from her almost 6 months before she passed. She mailed me her engagement ring that her husband gave her. This ring is 2 carats and 100 years old now. Tja guys, and there you see it. Being nice often pays off. I would say you definitely deserve that ring, Mama-san. Either way guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video, and once again I would like to remind everybody who wasn't aware already, we have our own subreddit on Reddit and it is called r/ripe stories. Despite having a plethora of interesting stories there already, if you are willing to, you are allowed to share your own stories, and if it is an interesting story, I might read it in a video. And by the way, little tip, if you register for Reddit, you don't even need to enter a valid email, so you can just use some imaginary email. So it is really easy to register. In addition guys, if you haven't already, please don't forget to check out my Patreon also, which is patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where you find over 40 exclusive videos, mostly just no mother-in-law, and for just $3 a month you will get access to all these videos. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you have a fantastic day and I see you again tomorrow.